Thanks, Ayrton, and thanks, Henry, for setting the stage. Like this, many things that you said perfectly make sense to what I'm trying to share and what we learned over the years as well. So as Ayrton said, I'm very happy to give you guys some insights about LeanIX and how we handle our scalability topics and growth with a microservice, with the DevOps landscape. You might argue, hey, this is not fintech per se, and yes, first of all, it's non-related to this. We are in the IT management industry. But then if we look left and right, we have many similarities. Like obviously we talk about regulation as well, if it's SOC or ISO. We talk about scaling, but also we have the exposure to many finance and insurance clients, which obviously are on their journey as well as you are, like understanding how to balance between legacy and regulations on the one hand, and modern tooling and an attractive workplace on the other. So today I would give you some insights from our side and some ideas where to improve and where to rethink stuff. And tomorrow we have a workshop scheduled where I'm very happy to go into details to show you part of our very own architecture and our very own challenges, and to discuss with you guys how we manage to address this in details, but also how our tooling helps us and maybe can help you as well. So that said, it's Dominic. I'm a computer scientist by education. I'm now 5.5 years with LeanIX. I'm a father of 3. Located in Cologne, in Germany. Obviously, would be great to be in place, but times are like this. Okay, and yeah, LeanIX is a company founded out of Bonn, founded out of DHL context, with a clear idea to say we want to bring architecture information to many people in the company to democratize classically more ivory tower based information around what is the company doing, where am I hosting stuff, etc. So we are focusing on providing usable environments and providing some insight like the following to the customers to say where is your IT landscape already suited for the technical trends and for the technical challenges, and where do you maybe need to invest. And as a quick opener, what we have been doing in the past quite successfully with financial institutions, more on the traditional side, to say, can we help you identify technical risks, for example, by bringing in data from catalogs like Flexera on technology life cycles, and then understanding in the business context where is an old SQL server affecting some core processes, and obviously then relating it to some of your main domains like IT security and regulations. But as I said, today will not be about marketing or stuff. It will be, first of all, about sharing. I want to share some insights about our very own landscape to host our solution. And we are running this worldwide on Kubernetes. We have chosen Azure and AKS as our stack. We run this with microservices since quite some years right now. And we have grown. We've grown into more than 16 development teams on 2 sites. We have grown into a multi-product organizations. And we took the decision very early on for microservice, and we were well aware that this has consequences. So we need to understand why we are doing this. And microservice only work with clear objectives. Fully agree with the industry knowledge there. For us, it's time to market, it's scale, and then it's efficiency what drives our architecture and landscape. So I invite you to look into those 3 areas with us, and a lot of things will be more reinforcing what you already know, but maybe the one thought or the other might be interesting. Time to market obviously for us means get things out to the customer, either as a new feature, or as a new like learning opportunity. We work a lot with beta flags and continuous shipments, so we can bring new stuff out to the customer, learn and adapt, while obviously respecting that we need to provide a very secure and stable environment to customers, because you might share this with your stakeholders, and we don't want to interrupt with some changes in the UI that people would not appreciate. So time to market is obviously about delivery pipelines and CI/CD, and you all know that the theory is one thing. The practice means that on the right-hand side, this is hard work. It's hard work to spawn up a new microservice. It's hard work to understand the new team and manage the team dynamics. It's hard work also to operate a new microservice in an enterprise quality. Speaking about observability, speaking about setting up the right knowledge in the support, and much more topics. But still, obviously, distributing stuff is the way to go. But for us, it's quite a deliberate choice to say, where do we spawn things up and where don't we? So we as a company, we decided to accept the monolith to some degree. So some parts of our applications are not there yet in terms of a perfect microservice architecture. Because we made very deliberate business decisions. When is it more important to break out a new microservice, or when is it more important to ship something? The clear learning I want to share is to make these deliberate decisions in both directions. So last year, we decided that we need new functionality in terms of COVID. So we made a new microservice. We even used some copy paste pattern to be really fast. So this can be one decision. But as I said, the other decision could be also to leave part of your structure as it, because there might be more important things to do currently. Henry pointed out the topic about culture. I couldn't agree more. Obviously, the theory speaks about autonomous teams and likely cross-discipline teams with operations directly included in DevOps, etc. All right and all good, and we believe in this. But obviously, this also means that you have never to be happy with the status quo. Team autonomy is something that is a very dynamic thing, and that you need to protect and that you need to foster as a leader. And if you are not careful, then either your team autonomy will decrease or will go into places where you don't want it to be. So this is a clear learning that culture is an essential point of every microservice endeavor. But also more on the technical side, the more you go into complexity, the more it matters to keep transparency about what you're actually doing. And those are some of the metrics that we are looking into. And obviously that is nothing that we invented on our side. Accelerate is a great book where there's some evidence to say the efficiency of a DevOps organization can be directly correlated to mean time to recovery, to deployment frequency, to lead time, to failure rate. So we are advancing there as an industry to say it's not only gut feeling and craftsmanship to say how to run a great software organization, but there's some clear evidence that if you're able to ship fast, if you're able to react quickly to failures, in the end, you will provide better software. If we look into the scale part, and obviously it's something you need to take into consideration. If you run your software this year with 50 engineers and next year with 100, you need to understand how to still be as nimble and as agile as today. So again, theory first. So it's about diversity, and it's about accepting different technologies for the right things. But also it's about balancing this, and you know this for sure better than I do, with the regulations. And in our world already, ISO, SOC, DPAs is something that very, very much affect what we are doing. So to balance between can I use some technology and what am I allowed to is something that drives us every day. On concrete note, for example, when it comes to open source licenses, a very strict process that the CTO and our legal counsel is notified whenever we use a new open source license. And obviously you need those processes in place when you give out freedom to developers. But also the war for talents, like to find great people, makes it really interesting to question where do you want to set boundaries in terms of technology usage and where don't you want to. I mean, we don't run a COBOL legacy, but still we need to make decisions whether we want to invest into Go, for example, as a language, and whether we want to try to hire people there, or whether we feel that being a bit more on the traditional language side is more helping us to find great people. Yeah, not answering obviously all questions, but one key aspect to us in this was you can look into industry stereotypes, but in the end, you are not Netflix or you are not Spotify. It was very important for us to find our own way how to deal with scaling and growth. Yeah, at one point in time, we had more microservices than developers, and obviously this was this was too much. Yeah, so it's very important to look into your organization and find your own way to balance growth and complexity that you're introducing. Visibility is another key learning from us as well. And visibility does not stop in the engineering team. So for us to deliver high level of enterprise support means that the support team need to identify with which team they need to talk, for example, in some incident situation. And I will share tomorrow more details. We have some automatic way to document our microservices with our very own tooling in a way that support agent can understand if I have an issue with the dashboard, to which team should I go? If I have an issue with something else, am I allowed to trigger an OCE overnight or not? And obviously, key in this is that this is not manual documentation, but that this documentation is created out of a CI/CD pipeline, because no developer would ever document these things manually when you release multiple times a day. And finally, it was key for us, and it is key for us to take developer on the journey around governance. Yeah, so if our developers don't understand, for example, GDPR by themselves, how can they make solid technical decisions to say how they want to build their service? So to bring those concepts like GDPR, like ISO, down to the developers, let them understand this, is key for us in order to allow them to make their decisions. Efficiency is the third topic, and obviously it's an important topic as you're growing. I mean, Microsoft wants money as well. Kubernetes clusters, database containers, they all cost some money. And you all know that there is great technology out there that help you build the most cost-efficient tooling at hand. So things like Kubernetes, with load balancing, things like Azure, turning things on and off dynamically, but also things like Instana, where you can look into your infrastructure and understand where do you need CPU, where do you need RAM, and where can you scale, because there is there are less requests. This can help, but obviously it's also an investment. And again, for us, it's a very important realization to say there's always a trade-off. Obviously, there's nothing that we are invented here, but there is a trade-off between costs and investing into efficiency. There's a trade-off towards features, but there's also a trade-off towards qualities in terms of bugs, in terms of increasing the SLA. And again, there's no like hard solution for this, but we have really good experience with making those trade-offs visible and even better quantifiable, so that we can make decisions based on data. How much do we want to invest into into quality? How much do we invest into efficiency? And where do we take a deliberate decision to build new features? And all of this, if we're able to run this on some data, gives us some confidence in making those decisions. But obviously, all this left aside, it's about technology. And this is a harder message potentially for people which are not here, because if you are in this, then you got this message already. But this is something I would feel you need to relay every day. If you are running in a fintech or in a cloud native or in a DevOps world, you need technical skills, and this is nothing that you could outsource. And investing constantly into Kubernetes, into AI ops, as we heard it, into other skills is key for every cloud native endeavor. This is what we clearly observe on our end, but also when we talk and work with our customers. Yeah, so that said, what does it mean? What kind of like tips or hints can I like give you as a cloud leader in a agile or becoming agile environment? So hopefully it does not look like this in your company. Like you're an engineer trying to run an app somewhere in Europe, and all of a sudden you realize before you can deploy something, you need to talk to 100 people and even find the right 50 people for this. But still, as you're working with large finance companies, this is part of your job actually, to navigate the architecture that's in place. I'm not making a point here for no governance and that like distributed responsibilities are not really helping. In the end, you need governance for sure, and no news to you. You need visibility around your cloud usage, around your AWS usage. You want to have cost under control, and you want to have a culture where you can have response times, as I mentioned, with the support. If people take 5 days to figure out who's the owner of a certain microservice or who's the owner of a certain cloud account, how can you provide the level of customer service that you want? So what we are trying to help companies with is to say, let's combine both. Yeah? On the one hand, let's provide a workplace which is really attractive. And to us, it comes down to empowerment and state-of-the-art tooling. You want to give access to tooling to people. You don't want to shield the cloud, for example, behind some portal and say, yes, a nice new service that AWS has out there, you can have it in 6 months. But you want to give those people an environment where they can use technology and in order to leverage it. But obviously, you not only want to provide guidance to them, but you need, because of compliance. Fully agree. So what we are helping customers with is to say, how can they, on the one hand, automatically deploy into AWS, into Kubernetes, into their CI/CD, but on the other hand, have a smart dashboard, have a smart notification system where you, as a technical owner, you are supported to take your responsibility to keep compliance and budget under control. And ideally, this is directly embedded into your core processes, so that, for example, for documentation, you would not even leave your IDE. Yeah. Three examples, and as I said, we will have the opportunity to have some deep dive even tomorrow. First example that I want to share is about knowledge. And you all know how fast Azure and AWS and GCP are evolving and announcing some new services, discontinuing others, etc. And you all know that there's significant work in your engineering department following this. What is crucial is that the notion of a life cycle and the notion of tech obsolescence and tech risk is present in the public cloud. And maybe this is a message that you need to relate to some of your business leaders because they do not know it. But imagine you run a very important project and you want to deploy it in the end with some great Lambda functions, only to figure out, hey, I need to upgrade from Node.js 8 to Node.js 10 because all of a sudden AWS prevents from deploying new services in Node.js 8. Or even worse, AWS decides to terminate some Lambda functions with Node.js 8. Yeah, and things like this are hidden in developer blogs and are hidden in some wikis somewhere in AWS, somewhere in Azure. And what I will show you tomorrow is how we can bring this to you and bring this to you on different levels, either on a Cloud Center of Excellence or a Cloud Account Owner level, but also on a traditional enterprise architecture level to react proactively to those life cycles. The second topic is tagging, and all of you know tagging as well, but for business people, tagging might be something really technical. The more you advance with your cloud governance, the more important is the topic of tagging. You want to understand who's responsible for something. You want to understand, is my VM, is my account in line with my regulations? But all of a sudden, it gets more and more complex to keep all those tags up to date and not to be in a position to update a large amount of services because of some reorganization. Yeah, so what we are working with customers is to say, can we resync tagging in a smart way? Obviously, you need tagging and labeling is state of the art to understanding who's responsible for certain things. But can we have it smarter? Can we have it in a way where it's more resilient and where people also understand which tags to set, which tags not to set? In the end, obviously, you want to incorporate it in your IAC pipeline, but still you need to give the developers the understanding what do they need to tag and why, in order that they fully embrace your policies. And the third topic is about documentation. And as I said, this is the area where we are coming from originally, where it is okay for a certain application owner to document one release, two releases a month, and keep something like a business documentation up to date. But obviously, no developer would do this 10 times a day with 10 releases, go into some tool and document stuff. Yeah, so where I will go in more details also tomorrow is something that we call microservice intelligence. So some automatic documentation around microservice to answer your question, what is actually deployed in your landscape and who's responsible for this, how it is supporting the business, and where is it actually deployed. And then if you have a documentation like this, you can use it as a baseline for processes like mitigation of business relevant violations from Snook, from AWS Trusted Advisor, for developer onboarding, for open source licenses, for SLR, SLO management, and other things. Yeah, so again, we will go into depth tomorrow in our workspace. We have an offering in the market, which we call microservice intelligence, where we incorporate some of the learnings that are just shared with you, and where we are very keen to get into some discussions to understand how can we help you as a software development department, you as a FinOps you have a fintech organization to speed things up in your in your DevOps and cloud native initiatives, while having documentation and while having audit logs and governance in place. So I would very much encourage you to join in tomorrow, and I would be very happy to go deeply into some questions tomorrow to understand where your challenges are and also share more in depth how we solve it for our own, but also how we experience it with our customers. That said, this would cover my talk for today. Ayrton, on my clock, it's 2 minutes before 10, so I believe this leaves us room for a question or two. Huh?
Exactly. Thank you very much, Dominic, for the presentation. As Dominic said, we now have a few minutes left for the Q&A, so feel free to get in touch via chat or the Q&A functionality. So far, I have one question, so let's get right into it. The first question is, or maybe I just read it out. I heard that a lot of companies mention the importance of automated teams. Do you have any insights or tips for getting automated teams on track?
Automated teams in which direction? Maybe we can go a bit into this. Is it more about how the interaction between team members is working, or about documentation? Do we have any backgrounds behind this?
I think it's meant with regard to interaction. Not 100% sure. Maybe also the time the delegate could also give more in the panel, but I think it's about interaction,
Yeah.
judging from the time point timestamp when the question came in. Yeah.
Got it. So maybe I can share about this also tomorrow a bit. What we, for example, had early on is an automated way to think about availability and to think about service breaking errors. So support agent for us has something like a red button to push, where in the end we are utilizing tools like Pingdom, for example, or PagerDuty to actually wake a developer at night. And obviously this is has a lot to do with culture. You don't want to wake up a developer at night, but if you take DevOps to the extent, then you want people to be responsible for running their software, and something like an OCE and on-call engineer, something that is clearly part of the equation. Yeah, but there, instead of, let's say, relying on mobile numbers exchange and trying to call people, etc., that we early on invested into some pipeline where we can rely on services, as I said, like PagerDuty, to help us there. And Slack is another, obviously, very essential tool for us. For example, to get information to many people is an integration with customer failing. Are we somewhere at risk of not meeting our SLAs or SLOs? So the more information about our infrastructure we can get to the right people, the better we are in the end to reacting to what occurs. I'm not sure if this is 100% with the question, but in the end, for sure, teams cannot be automated. Teams is a very dynamic process, and it's really interesting to understand, to see what things like COVID do to team dynamics. All of a sudden, things go remote, and this puts clearly challenges on the team leaders as well. But also growth. I mean, we just had an all hands like software review last week with our 80, 90 engineers, now organized into different tribes, and it's getting harder and harder that people like get information around what is happening in their software, what are other teams doing, and investing into this might be not fully related to like automate team interaction, but to be careful to look into team interaction is definitely part of the equation as well.